Well, if you are an avid listener of the Totally Indian Football Show, you must have noticed a slight delay in the release of an episode for this week. But I think all blame is to me, as I was, still getting back to the routine as I was back from Bangalore after a short break, and it took some time for me to get back to streamlining things. But finally, here we are with an episode, and I have a very special guest joining us from Bangalore. Though we did not meet there, I am glad that we can speak on this show today. You are listening to the Totally Indian Football Show with me, your host Siju, and let me first welcome Sarthak to the show.
Hi, Siju. Really happy to be here, and yeah, I'm doing well.
Great. I think we are now two people, both of us who both have a podcast, and we are all equipped with our mics. So our sound engineer today will be the happiest to edit the show. Let's get into it, Sarthak. You are a director at Double Pass. You're also a co-founder at the Double Pass Development League, which is, I must say, since the start has been the talk of the town for grassroots football, and rightly so. But let's start from the top, right? If you can tell us more about what this double pass is and what it does. And yeah, first things that, and then we'll get into how the league came about.
Sure. So, Double Pass is actually a Belgian-based football consulting company, right? We work with some of the biggest leagues around the world. The likes of the Premier League, the Bundesliga. Of course, in Belgium as well. In with the J League in Japan, where our primary goal is to help the football academies, to help the leagues actually produce more and better players. And how we do that is by obviously doing a lot of analysis work, doing a lot of um, observational work, educating the staff that's working at these academies, and working on processes, improving processes that are related to talent development. Now, this is what we do internationally, and I basically manage their business here in India, where our role is to try and improve the talent development processes in the country. How can we add to this ecosystem, whether it's through consulting, whether it's through education, or assessment of football academies. You can think of us as the football auditors, right? That's the line of work that we're into, and it's all ultimately to produce more and better players.
Right. And how have you been working with the Indian ecosystem for that matter, Indian football?
So, when you look at the more developed markets around the world, when you look at South America, when you look at Europe, these are markets where football, it's ingrained culturally into the system. You have football being played week in, week out. The grassroots level, the investment at the grassroots level is very strong. The eyeballs at even grassroots level, the talent identification and recruitment processes are very strong. So what works in Europe, what works in South America, it just cannot be lifted and shifted into the Indian ecosystem. That's the very first thing that we have understood, right? So in India, what we're doing is we are first trying to set up the ecosystem, right? When there isn't anything to assess, where there isn't much you can go and audit and consult with, the first process that you need to do is set up that ecosystem yourself at the grassroots level. Of course, it will never be exactly the same as Europe. You have to customize it to India. You have to work with the environment that's here. But yeah, that's what we're trying to do with the Double Pass Development League. Where we're actually working the other way around. We are starting off at the grassroots level. Trying to get more and more academies involved. Trying to get grassroots small football academies who, whether it's just a local football coach who's played at the national level, and he's just running a small ecosystem at within an apartment or with at a local ground. Getting these kind of people involved, getting the ecosystem up and running. Basically, that's what we're doing in India first.
Right now, and this development, double pass development league started in 2019, if I'm not wrong. And you guys had a successful season back then, 600 plus matches for the age categories of under 7, under 9, and under 11. It's also the largest grassroots league approved by AIFF and the KSFA, and it also comes under the baby leagues, or currently known as the Golden Baby Leagues. Now, as you mentioned, of the whole understanding the ecosystem and how things are different elsewhere, and you can't just copy paste things here. Was that the main reason to start and kickstart something like a development league?
Yeah, absolutely, Siju. So, I mean, how it all started off was, understanding the differences between the European market and the Indian market, right? What is the gap at the grassroots level? And the very first gap that we identified was competition, right? When there is competition at the grassroots level, when there is organized, an organized competitive setup, the ecosystem automatically blooms around it, right? It very organically blooms around it. And that's what has been culturally engraved into Europe. Those guys know that they're training from Monday to Friday, whether 2 times, 3 times a week, right? And they are just, they're not just training, but they're also executing at the end of training sessions through a match on the weekend, which is either on a Saturday or Sunday, or sometimes both. Now, that's the biggest gap that we identified, that in India, what's happening is there are plenty of football academies. There are plenty of schools who are running football programs, right? Everyone's doing their own thing, but there isn't a platform that's bringing everyone together, under one roof, so that you can execute whatever you've learned during the week. That's the very first thing that you need in terms of competition. And yeah, that's where we started off, identifying that as a gap, convincing football academies, convincing coaches to come and be a part of this, experience and engage with football over a longer period of time. Our school competitions, if I can ask you, Siju, I mean, if you've played any sport at the school level, how many matches do you think you would have played throughout a season, if I may ask you?
Well, the question, I mean, the answer ends right there. Where did I have? There was nothing for girls in our school. So, the answer ends right there. But even if we had, like, say, for example, other schools did have their competition, or even our boys, there were hardly any, maybe it just went on for a month. And then, unless you qualify to a certain stage, then you're even done with probably 3 or 4 games the entire year. That's about it.
Exactly. So that's the first problem that we were trying to solve. That our kids are firstly engaging with the sport at a very late age, right? On average, kids are probably starting to play the game at the age of 11, 12. uh, but can we decrease that number? Can we bring it down to 5, 6, 7? Can we get kids starting to play a lot earlier, and not just starting a little earlier, but also engaging with the sport over a longer period of time, not just these weekend tournaments, or 1 month tournaments, but actually over a period of time, 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, where they're able to play week in, week out. And yeah, that's the first thing that we're trying to do.
Right. Now, I'm someone who likes the whole process of research and getting things together before actually putting into implementation. So I'm sure there's a lot that you guys, like you rightly mentioned, you had to study this ecosystem. Things were different here, reaching out to clubs, academies, and coaches to be part of this. So if you can probably tell us a little more about what exactly went in. Did you reach out to people probably to set up this entire league, because it's not an easy task to start a league from scratch and then officially get approved by the state and the body from the country's body. So how did that go about? Did you have people outside your ecosystem in terms of reaching out to people who know the grassroots football scene here, to get in more inputs and then lay down something really nice?
Yeah, I would say the start was first convincing people on the why, right? Why is competition important? Why do you need to engage with the sport more regularly? I think that was the first hurdle that we had to cross. So it was convincing academies, to change their training schedules also for us. It was convincing coaches who are working in small hyper local environments, in small hotspots in the city, to come and get a team along, build a team together, and come participate in the competition. It was, yeah, it was convincing parents as well, because parents are not used to this. They usually are used to the more traditional Indian tournament system, where it's just 1 or 2 games of no, sorry 1 or 2 days of knockout competition, and it's done with. So convincing them to come week in, week out from all parts of the city, uh, convincing coaches, parents, yeah. So that was how it all started. But once like I said, once the ecosystem blooms and once people see uh, that kids are learning something week in week out, it doesn't matter whether you're winning or you're losing these matches, but as long as you're learning something, you're taking away something, some learning outcomes. There's the parents automatically started looking forward to the next week. The coaches automatically started um, you know connecting their training sessions to the next match that's coming up. Connecting whatever learnings they took from the previous match, the mistakes that their players made, the mistakes that they themselves as coaches made. The next week now gave them an opportunity to correct those mistakes and come back and learn again. So it has been a process, and it takes a bit of time. And obviously, we were inspired by the All India Football Federation coming up um, with the whole baby leagues concept. That I think the incentive that they gave to leagues, and the importance uh, that they shed onto grassroots football was also important, right? And so yeah, that's how the connection came later. Automatically, once you're running matches week on week, parents are coming in week on week and enjoying the experience. I think automatically, people start talking about it, and more people and more academies want to be a part of it.
Right. Now, as you were doing your research and then finally you actually kickstarted the season, a good response. You had 600 plus matches across three age categories. If I may ask you now, again, maybe it's too early to ask, but with the time that you spent in the city of Bangalore, and the research that you've taken up and doing the league, what do you think are your major learnings at this point about grassroots football from the city of Bangalore?
I think, like you said, it's too early to think that we've achieved everything that we set out for. Right, our vision is not just to stick to the city of Bangalore, but it's to impact Indian football as a whole. Right, that's our vision, and to take this to other cities. How can we learn what's going on in Kerala? How can we learn what's going on in Mumbai, and kind of set up and customize our leagues to that environment? How can we enter a very difficult market like Calcutta and learn from their existing issues, and try and set up a league there? So our vision and our plan is to take DPDL as a league to multiple hotspots around the country. But in terms of learnings that we have taken, I mean, every single day is a learning here, Siju. Like, the very basics. I think my biggest learning is doing and executing the basics right. Making sure games start on time, making sure the parents have a good experience, because they are the ones who are engaging with us week in week out, the ones who will make a decision on whether the child has to come back and stay involved with the sport as well next season or not. It's about doing the basics right, making sure the referees are all well looked after, because there is no football without referees, right? There is no game without them. Making sure all our processes, everything is followed to the T. So yeah, it's about taking learnings every single day, and we face different kinds of situations. It's like I can never make one SOP and stick to it for the leagues, because one day one coach will be fighting with you, the other day another parent will be fighting with you, and you have to take into consideration everything. Um, so but yeah, like, if just to answer your question, it's about learning every single day from this, and making your league the best possible experience for the kids and the coaches and parents.
Right. Now, when you guys started off, with a bang, but you also had challenges right at the start. You started in 2019, and then comes a year where almost 2.5 years goes by because of the pandemic. Now, how did you guys, probably jump up from there? Because it's not very easy to get back post pandemic, especially something that you started and you got a good response. So it's not necessary that the response could be at the same level as you guys started. So how has it been post the pandemic, and now things have opened up with the current season? How is the cliche question, how is the Josh like right now in the city?
So we're currently doing season 2, and yeah, like you rightly mentioned, the pandemic was uh, it was a very challenging phase for us, because we lost the momentum. Right, our season just ended in March, and then the pandemic hit. the season one that ended, and we got a very good response for it. So um, but one good thing that happened is, although we lost the momentum, the parents, the coaches, and the academies did not forget us. When a team like Bengaluru FC, which is an Indian Super League club, they keep reaching out to you and checking, okay, when are you guys starting? After every wave, we were getting messages from the parents. When you get the local football academies, the likes of Boca Juniors, BBFS, everyone reaching out and just staying in touch, to understand when the league is starting again. That obviously gave us a bit of hope, and we were just waiting for the right time to do it. So yeah, last year in December, um, just before the third wave, actually, we started the league again. Of course, had to keep in mind all the health and safety protocols. Make sure that there is no chance that we leave, for us being questioned on anything. So uh, yes, the response from season one to season two, there were a few. If you ask me, Siju, there were a few small academies that actually shut down. A lot of small grassroots setups were affected by this, by the pandemic. So some of, I would say three, four small academies that were part of season one, they don't even exist anymore. Um, but obviously those coaches have moved on. They've started new ventures. There are other people who've entered the ecosystem. So I would say between season one and season two, we got a very good response. More, I mean, much better than what I'd expected in season two. And yeah, hopefully now, nothing can come in the way, and we can slowly keep building from here.
Right. Now, we often speak about when we talk about football or the action on the pitch, we often say about how important it is for the kids or athletes, players to have good game time for them to improve. But in hindsight, like you mentioned, the referees need to improve, the coaches need to improve. So, for all of them to improve, there needs to be more game time. So, how important do you think have you paved this path for even the young coaches? Who out there probably with their C or D or even B license at that grassroots level, taking up coaching roles. How important it is for them also to showcase, have that game time.
Correct. It's the league, as we call it. It's the double pass development league, right? And development being the key word. While players are the key focus, and making sure players get the best experience out of it, but like you rightly said, it's the coaches who ultimately are driving this. They are the ones guiding these kids. They are the ones also coming in week in, week out. So yeah, that's the we've actually seen coaches also go on a journey, just like how a player is going on a journey of 20 plus matches. Even the coaches are doing exactly the same. um, you know th- they face different kind of opponents every single week, right? So for example, if you're a coach who's just entered the ecosystem at a D license level, or nowadays you even have the E license level, right? These people coming in, um, for the first time, they are able to connect their training sessions to a match, right? They are able to prepare with their kids based on the opponent, actually twofold, based on the opponent that's coming up, and at the same time these coaches can experiment with their own strategy, their own philosophy that they're trying to build. So this kind of a platform, I think, is important. And competition, and like I said, competition is what will organically bloom this ecosystem. The fact that there are matches happening, more people will join, more referees will be required, and then the referees will start doing their own, more referee workshops will be conducted, so that more people are inducted in the system because more matches are happening. At the same time, if there are more age categories happening, academies need to hire more coaches as well. So yeah, it's a journey, Siju. It's a journey that these coaches and players have to embark on. And I think some of the learnings that they take away from this is, handling match situations, handling pressure at this age. If you're a young coach, and you get the experience of playing a very tough opponent one week, and then the very next week you have a not so tough opponent, but how do you manage your squad for that? How do you utilize the limited time that you have in training to prepare for this kind of an opponent? What are your objectives that you're trying to achieve from that game? So it's a journey, and every coach, I think, learns differently in this process, and I think it's our job to give them the best experience at the league.
Right. Now, what do you think would be the probably the drastic shift in the response that you've got from all the stakeholders, including the players, the parents, the coaches, everyone, the clubs and the academies, from the time that you probably approached them in the first, and now that you're into the season two, what do you think has changed in their response towards this a league like this?
Um, yeah, I think it's about giving. I think these coaches and parents, when they experience this, when they experience the league, when they experience that their child is taking away something from it, they want to keep coming back. So I wouldn't say there is a drastic shift. I think it's about constantly, working hard, working towards improving the league day in day out, and I think just like how season one was a resounding success, where we were able to impact so many kids and give them so much game time. I think the people just wanted to experience that again. So I wouldn't say it's a massive shift, but it's about engaging with them week in week out, and yeah, just getting them back, and just to give you an example, like this season, what we did differently from first is we are now trying to, let's say, add a bit more value to the people who are coming in. So the podcast that we've started, for example, is aimed specifically for this audience, right? The parents and the coaches and the kids who are coming, just giving them some extra value that they can take back, whether it's talking about talent development, bringing experts in to share stories and anecdotes from their careers, and just inspiring these kids and parents to continue staying involved. I think that's been step one for us, to just continue to engage with these people. And at the same time, what we also want to do is now start holding workshops for parents, right? On very simple basic topics of, nutrition, injury prevention, maybe talent identification and recruitment for the coaches, how to build your own coaching methodology, your own philosophy. These are things that we want to bring in experts and kind of give this information out to the coaches and parents, because ultimately it's all going to come back. It's going to come back to the league in terms of performance and producing better players.
Right. And now, when I was reading about you and on your LinkedIn profile, it also mentioned that you're working for FIFA's high performance project in 13 countries. Now, if you can probably explain that in a little more detail, what is this project about and how is it going?
Yeah, so FIFA actually came up with this project in 2020, the FIFA High Performance Project, where their objective was to conduct an in-depth analysis of what's happening in each and every member association, in terms of talent development. There has been, let's say, a huge gap that's been, and the gap is just becoming larger and larger between the European market and let's say the Asian market. Just as an example, countries like Spain, Belgium, England, they're just moving at such a rapid pace in terms of youth development structures. The rest of the world is playing catch up, and FIFA has kind of realized that this is actually reflecting on the competitive balance at the FIFA competitions, right? It's only those few countries that are standing out in terms of um, you know uh, of results also. So I think FIFA's main objective was to reduce this gap, to bridge the gap between the developing and the developed football world. So I think our role and my role on this was to analyze the most elite, high performing environments in these 13 countries. So I was assigned mostly countries in Asia, right, including India, South Korea, Uzbekistan, and the some of the oceanic countries as well. And my objective here was to analyze what's going on, to understand more how these elite environments in these countries work, whether it was analyzing their documentation, conducting interviews, watching their training sessions, conducting surveys, observing training sessions. Like I said, it was like doing a complete in-depth analysis of what's happening there, and then producing the results back to FIFA. So yeah, that's basically what we did. And now FIFA is coming up with the next phase of this. So this was phase one, which was purely an analytical phase where we were just trying to understand what's happening in each environment. And now phase two, I think FIFA wants to um, kind of have a customized approach for every single member association, because the way talent is being developed in Spain is very different from the way talent is being developed in Hong Kong or in China or in Uzbekistan. So going in with a customized approach to every single country, I think that's going to be FIFA's next objective, and yeah, hopefully the that will reflect in the FIFA competitions as the competitive balance becomes slightly better.
Now, you mentioned that you want DPDL to grow in other cities in the country as well. So, if I may ask, have you guys already been working on the next city that you're tapping into, or is it too soon to think about that?
Yeah, Siju, we guys are very much looking at other cities and very actively looking at it as well. In fact, the city that you're sitting out of right now, Bombay, that's the next target that we have. We've already done our initial groundwork, and yeah, very soon we'll be launching there. But it's not just Bombay. It's also looking at Delhi, which has a very strong schools network as well, which is actively involved in football. We're looking at Chennai as well, which is slowly starting to emerge. Kerala obviously is a hub and hotspot for a very long time. So yeah, we are very open to going to these cities, and yeah, that's the vision. These are things that don't let me sleep, Siju. I mean, these are conversations that really give me sleepless nights, because I'm just so excited to go and expand this and give this experience in other cities as well.
Well, I must then say welcome to Bombay, and we are all here to probably push you and you whatever support that you need. We're right here, whether it's through the podcast or through whatever works that you need on ground as well. Count us in part of your team.
Thanks, Siju. Absolutely.
Thank you so much for your time. And I know you are running around with the closing sessions of closing matches of the DPDL currently, but you still took some time off. And thank you so much.
It's a pleasure to be on the show, Siju. I think what you guys are doing, just documenting stories from Indian football, getting people onto the show. I think this is a huge service to Indian football, to be very honest. Just documenting these kind of conversations, and it's really an honor to be here, and I look forward to hosting you at the leagues very soon.
Yes, next time in Bangalore, I'm definitely pinging you. And if I'm definitely at the premises of South United Football Club where the league is happening, you will hear from me soon. Thank you once again, Sarthak, and thank you to all our listeners. I hope the delay was worth the wait, and thank you so much for all the love and appreciation. Continue to subscribe and follow to our show. We are available on all the leading audio platforms. This is the Totally Indian Football Show, and I was your host, Siju. Thank you once again.